Gio and I are here with a very distinguished guest. We are here with Willie Gutierrez, who is now the president of Premier Workspaces. Willie, I've known you as the CFO. I don't know if that's your most recent role. And way back in the day, you were on when I first joined the GWA, you were on the board.
Yeah.
That was our brief interaction. And then you went back heads down into doing your thing. I am excited to have you on. Is he our first Premier guest?
He is.
He is. Wait, we didn't have Michelle on. We should get Michelle on.
Yeah, we run under the radar. So.
You are sort of under the radar, and that's why I like it, because a lot of times when people talk about the biggest brands in the industry, they think of WeWork and Industrious, and Premier, kind of flies under the radar. But you're up to how many locations now?
85. So
85.
nationwide. Yeah, so nationwide, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And you have never gone bankrupt, and and don't have outside investors. Is that right? Do you self-fund all your locations? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you also, they've never had a year that they didn't make money, a profitable year.
Right. So they're like the under the radar most profitable brand in the industry. We're outing you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I went there. Do I get on or not? No. So, I mean, I don't know for the most profitable, but we've been very fortunate. We have a good team.
I'd be willing to place some bets, Willie.
So yeah, it's been nice. So thank you for asking me to come on and be a part of the podcast, and it's good to see you all. So looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, Gio will ask you the hard questions, but I'd love to hear, because you've been in the industry for a long time. I mean, you guys have a team that's been together. Michelle's been with the group for a long time. How did you get into the industry? Tell us a little bit about your background.
So my background was I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, so CPA, way back when in the day. So hence that's why I was eventually hired by Jeff as the CFO. Big company. So I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was with Weyerhaeuser Company. I was with Merrill Lynch. So I had that big company experience. And then I had worked with Jeff when we were at Weyerhaeuser. So he knew of me, and he kind of knew, or he saw how I treated people, he said, and, just treated them with respect. And then in 2008 at Merrill Lynch, market hit the tank, right? And then B of A took over.
Yeah.
And and so kind of around that time, Jeff was looking for a CFO. So he actually was calling me to see if I'd be the CFO for Premier, and then B of A was interviewing me to kind of take over a role that I was doing. And I thought bigger was better. I kind of was leaning toward B of A, and glad I didn't. It's probably the best move in fact, it is the best move that I ever made, being not necessarily a bigger fish in a smaller pond, but it's just in a good industry and being able to affect change, having the role to be able to do that. So yeah, so that was in 2009. So it's been 15 years. Amy Fuller, our other co-president, so we're co-presidents. She also started in the same month. So we both started February of 2009, just not even knowing each other. So, and then Amy's on the sales marketing side. I'm on the corporate side. And so I was CFO and then COO. So I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I was promoted to COO. And then, now. And then Michelle's phenomenal, so very strong on just the industry, and just her knowledge and relationships with clients. So yeah, very fortunate. And so we have a good team. So we have a good team. So,
and an experienced team. I mean, again, you're kind of hiding under the radar. One of the most experienced team it says a lot about the company and the business that you've all been together and stuck with it through all this time. Okay, Gio, I'll let you start with the hard questions.
Well, you did, and I had the opportunity to have a pre-call with Willie when he's like, okay, what am I getting myself into?
I see.
It was, I've never given one of those, and I've never said pre-questions, but Willie's special.
I know.
But you mentioned he loved the way you treated people. And I mean, that's based off of your faith base, right? And your foundation, which I think is a big part that we got into the conversation. Funny enough, when I talked to Faye and I told Faye you were going to be on, she was like, use the word God and he will talk forever. And so it was so funny. I was like, Faye, I've already spoken to him and we had a great conversation. But I mean, I think your faith base is a big reason why you treat people the way you do and kind of how you help run the organization. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in a culture where in the big corporations where their management philosophy was more by intimidation. And so you got very good at your role because you didn't want to be embarrassed in the meeting. So that was a positive, and that was before Merrill Lynch. So that was at my previous companies. And then at Merrill Lynch, I had a boss. So at Merrill Lynch, we were in charge of the Western United States in corporate real estate, so over all the leases and the assets and stuff like that. And he treated people with respect. We had lunch and learns. We had freedom to make decisions and make mistakes, and that was okay. Where at the other ones, you make a mistake, you just get called out. And so that way that system works, right? But I think here and what we were able to bring to Merrill or to Premier was a culture where I'll tell my team, I'll make the biggest mistakes. So it's okay to make a mistake. Only one person was perfect. So, kind of on the faith base, only one person was perfect. And so just let me know. If something happens, let me know. I'm gonna find out anyway, and then we'll figure it out. And I think that allows the team freedom to think clear. You're not walking on eggshells. You can think clearer, and then we'll figure it out. So yeah, I think so on the faith base, I think there's a lot of opinions on people. You can be a hypocrite or not, right? There's all that kind of stuff, and I try to walk the talk. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I try to do that. And this might be a question too, so I don't want to, jump the gun, but also in Merrill Lynch, the culture, or not Merrill Lynch, but at Premier, the culture is we created what I created was a CLT, which I think we mentioned to you, Gio, a little bit. So I have a circle of trust, kind of like the Meet the Fockers. And so about once a month or periodically, Amy and I, the director of real estate, Michael Pollock, if Michelle's in town, we'll get together and we give permission to get into each other's business with respect, because doesn't mean I'm perfect and I'm going to make mistakes. So we can do things right. And so we have a great communication where in my prior stuff, you work for the big companies and they're backstabbing.
Every man for himself, right?
It is, and you could feel it. No, you could feel it. And so I vowed not to have that culture here. Again, it's still work. I get it. So I think that's our uniqueness and kind of the faith, just the style, Gio, that I think, and then I think my belief is I get more productivity from my team being that way than the intimidation, more loyalty. And I think that's why we have some longevity within the organization. At least that's what I hope. So
I mean, even your circle of trust, right? Some of the things that come up in there may be, like game changers for your business. Like, what if you didn't do that? And it was more, sort of, well, I want credit or I want, whatever. It's like, it's probably like a little bit humbling, a little bit vulnerable, but I love that. Right. I love that. Permission to get into each other's business.
Yeah, because I may not like what they have to tell me, and if they're right, then we need a change. Yeah, and they're right.
And I think having that trust is such an incredible foundation, right? And and I know Michelle really well. I mean, she lives here in Dallas where I live, and I've spent a lot of time with her, and she's awesome. And then I know, and Jamie, I don't know if you know this, but Michael Pollock was on the Regis team with me.
That's right.
The head of,
okay.
Yeah, he's
I know
the
of
director
Michael,
of real estate.
And maybe did we talk to him one time about a client we were working on? We should get him on too. Yeah.
So Michael actually did the remodel. I think this was his first remodel when he started, this is in Washington, D.C. in my background.
Oh,
but Michael is a real estate asset manager by trade. Then he came over to Regis. And then when he joined, I've had lunch with him a couple times. We've spoken, and when he joined Premier, he didn't know he was going to be in the head of construction and design too, and so he's really picked
You
that
picked up a
up
new
as,
hobby.
yeah, as they've remodeled that. But again, it's just it goes back to just the amount of overall experience that y'all have on your team outside of just the flexible workspace world, but just real estate and sales in general.
Yeah, I mean, we run lean, you know, so we always wear multiple hats, right? But yeah, so within, you know, Jamie, like the circle of trust would be so, and how we're set up is I'm on the corporate side, right? So that's like IT, finance, and HR. Amy's on the sales side, sales and marketing, and then Michael is on the real estate. And so we cover everything. And like Gio said, I mean, Michael did like over 200 deals with Regis, so he knows what we're looking for, what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. And then we together, you know, when we have a deal, we'll look at it together. Does it make sense, right? Because we're not looking for dots on the map. It has to make sense. And I think that accounts for some of our successes. You know, it doesn't make that we don't make mistakes too. Like you get a location and oh, it didn't work out. You know, that happens. But we try to just to do smart growth. So yeah.
So as you guys are, I mean, obviously I can't believe it's almost been 4+ almost 5 years of COVID and everything else. I was going through that with someone the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. So how did y'all weather
that's
that
right.
storm? I mean, obviously, you know, we were all impacted by that. And then, you know, just kind of as kind of the financial person, right? So what did that look like for y'all being in the middle of the storm, then coming out of it thinking, I think we all thought it was going to end up being something different. It's kind of slowly evolved. And so how's this last season been for y'all, and how have you adjusted through it?
For one, COVID was hard. My wife says that I aged during COVID. So, you know, just trying to survive, right? So COVID was survival mode in our world. And so in that year, we were able still to make a small profit, you know, so, but what we found though from that culturally was because people didn't come into the office, even my team or our teams, other than the locations, we found that we could trust that they got all the work done plus working remotely, right? And so even though that's our world, right? But you know, corporate, we kind of get together because you know that way you have the water cooler conversations and all that kind of stuff. And so we have some flexibility with the team. And because even after COVID, I mean, people wanted to work remotely 100%, you know, and some were demanding, you know, because other either competitors or companies were, hey, if I don't work from home, then forget it. You know, but now you're seeing that now that everything's opened up, productivity is lower now. So they're kind of bringing them back. And I think that's been phenomenal, or not phenomenal, but it's been very good for our industry, right? So how are we seeing like after post-COVID? We're on a smart growth path now. So Michael, we get calls all the time from landlords. And so we're looking to grow, either taking over some locations that didn't work, or landlords now have extra space, you know, and they need to figure out something. We're kind of no different than what our competitors are doing.
Yeah.
We feel we have a good track record, you know, and I mean, and we've been doing this really, we've been doing third-party fee management since 2005. So I don't know if we were like the originators of it, but we've been
Go
doing
ahead and take credit, Willie.
Yeah, we've been doing this a long time. So you'll see on, you know, on the PRO, you know, we're the originators, or, you know, I go, I don't know, we've been doing it a while. But, you know, we try to be smart, right? I mean, because we don't have investor money, so we don't spend a lot of money on PR. You know, really, we're spending money on the client, on the location, on the blocking and tackling, you know, what makes sense. So don't know if I went a little bit on a tangent, you know. So if you're asking like post-COVID, I think that the industry is seeing positive results. We're seeing that. I mean, and I believe we're set up for growth. But I did that, you know, Jamie, I think we're only question. So we set up the system on the accounting, the sales side, the infrastructure during COVID because of what was going on, so that we could do growth. So we kind of used that time to do that. Got lucky, that we were able to do that. And so, Lord willing, then we can now grow. So
Yeah.
well,
And
then,
so y'all really taken it. I mean, you kind of tapped on it, but you guys have really taken advantage of relationships that you've had, the overall profitability and experience that you've got by taking over. I mean, especially in California, right? Y'all have a huge presence in California. So I know y'all took over some operator spaces that were given back to the landlord, and basically were really methodical about the deals you did, right? I mean, you guys, I think it's super unique because you guys will sign a deal where you do a management deal, but you'll convert it to a lease at a certain threshold. You kind of want to talk about kind of some of those takeovers and kind of the success y'all had with some of those?
yeah. So that is our methodology, is especially if it's in a new location, we would prefer that it be a management deal, so that we can get a feel for the area. It's less risk on us, right? But at the same time, I think we've been able to, almost, I want to say in 100% of our locations that are third-party fee management, improve the occupancy and revenue for the landlord. And so we get a management fee, right? But that's all we get. We don't tack on other fees. It's a management fee. And then because our philosophy is it's a fiduciary duty, so we treat that location as if it was ours. So the money, the staff, all that, we don't differentiate that it's a third party. It's one of Premier's, right? And so if we can convert it to us, that'd be great. We have a couple locations now that we've done too good that landlords don't want to convert it. The lease will be less than what we're generating in revenue. And so we feel we just have a good system. Amy and her sales team, we have the hospitality culture. It's the client. And we want to partner with the client to help their business. And we have like a live person at the receptionist, we're sort of greeting people, answering the phones, those kind of things. And so, yeah, so that's kind of been what we try to do on the third party. And if we can convert them to lease, great. And if not, that's okay. We'll continue with the relationship with the long term, because some of those long-term relationships, then they have other space. Yeah. Then they say, hey, you know what, we have this now and we trust you guys. Can you look at that? And that's happened to maybe, a quarter of our locations that we have multiple deals with. So.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think that's a big part, has been how strategic y'all are in your locations, right? Y'all are very selective of where you go, why you go. Michelle's a big part of that, right? Really understanding where the leads are being generated from is a big part. And I think that's what being a small team and nimble and everything else gives you the ability to do that. You're not just growing for the sake of growing, right? You really are strategic as to where those leads are coming from.
Yeah, and I think just the expertise that, like, say, Michelle brings, when we have a location, we'll huddle up as a team and discuss it too, right? Because we need the sales perspective. It may be a great building and nice build out, but let's say Michelle or the sales team, I don't know if we're going to be able to generate any leads or fill it up, and so we won't do it. So we take input from really everybody. Because it's real easy, I think, to put a dot on the map, right? And then you're in a trophy building, but you're losing money. And for us, it's all about cash, right? It's bottom line is cash in, cash out. So we're really old school, I guess. We're not, you can look at top line revenue, that's great, but then you look at all your expenses and you're just bleeding, right?
I'm curious about that model because you guys have you sort of lived through the WeWork era of growth at any cost. I'm curious, about, like, I was talking to an asset owner yesterday, and she kind of made a comment about WeWork and sort of the state they're in right now. And I said, I mean, in their heyday, anybody who was going to sleep with a P&L, you know, under their pillow, like knew that was not real, like that was not sustainable growth. But I could see, like, you know, how do you, or what was it about the model or the culture that you were like, we do what we do, we know our model, we're going to run our model, and we're just gonna, you know, blinders on, we're not going to look at, you know, what these guys are doing and go for growth, you know, at any cost? Like, was there ever a temptation to do that? Or I would just love to kind of hear your perspective on a few of those
Yeah.
years where maybe it was a little tempting to be like, what are they doing over there? Are we missing something? You know?
No, I mean, it was hard. I mean, I was jealous, you know,
Right. Like the ego, right? Like kicks
yeah,
in, and I mean, you know, in the positive, like what are they doing? Yeah.
of how they're growing.
Yeah.
So we did a great job in promoting our industry, right? So they did that. And so that carried over and that did help us. And I think like with, you know, Gio, the background that you see in the background, and with Michael, they did open our eyes to upgrading our space to be more, either more current or just, yeah, probably just, you know, more open.
Yeah.
So that was good. And so did we want to grow though? So we have a model, you know, so where if a certain company, you know, wants to take a whole building, that's not our model. You know,
Yeah.
we know what our sweet spot is.
Yeah.
And so we stick to that. And so when, you know, in their heyday, you know, if their money wasn't going to route, I don't, you know, that was scary, you know, because just of the growth. And so we benefited from that. We did not feel though that we needed to grow, but we did feel that we needed to upgrade our locations so that we were competitive in aesthetics. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we weren't, you know, again, but we were conservative, you know, as far as there was still no alcohol, you know, we weren't going to, that was a liability for us. And so that was a good thing that happened. Yeah. So,
And here you are with your 85 profitable locations on the other side of, yeah, the pandemic and kind of, right, the model we've seen with WeWork. I think that's just one of the things. So let's talk about your model for a minute. Your typical size is 12 to 15,000?
17.5.
17.5 is your, okay. Wait, is that your, is that the median
So
square
that's our,
footage?
yeah,
Or is that your
that's the
target
average. Yeah, that's the
location?
average. Yeah, that's just the average. Yeah. So, you know, a full
Okay.
floor, you know, so we'll do a floor.
Okay.
Right. So we're comfortable with the floor. We have a couple locations, or not a couple, but we have a few locations that are multiple floors. And, you know, then that's a lot more offices, right? So, and then too small is too small. So we know that we would prefer not to go below a certain amount also. And so I know there's competitors that have smaller locations, but we feel that that doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
Profitability wise. And so, yeah, so full floor, you know, I would say full floor is a good sweet spot for us for building the number of exterior, corner, interior offices, you know, with you. And we, you know, we have the main receptionist and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah. And some beautiful lobby areas, which you can see in Gio's photo. And
Yeah.
your target customer takes not a team suite. You don't typically do larger. Yeah.
We don't. We will do those if it happens to be a location that we took over and it has it.
Okay.
Right. So we'll do that. But we find that those are harder to get occupancy. So, you know, so we do a lot with the mom and pop. You know, we do enterprise too, but we do a lot with the mom and pop. And it's amazing what companies are out there that make a lot of money. There you go. So yeah, so we're not afraid of a lot of offices in a location.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one other quick question about services. You do mail, do you do phone answering, the ancillary support?
Yeah, so we just do the typical, you know, we have our conference rooms, you know, day offices, generate money that way. We have the live receptionist, we have the mail, you know, and interesting, you know, with just the new CMRA rules, you know, and getting those going. And And so, we try to stay on top of operationally
Yeah.
what needs to be done, because that's important, right? So our clients need their mail. And so, and you guys would know this, in our world, there's always something that comes up. I mean, you think you're like riding along and boom, it's like, oh. So
Now this. Yep.
so we do the typical stuff. I mean, again, we do the blocking and tackling. And I think we do that well. Nothing fancy. We don't have ping pong tables in the lobby or anything like that. We just, people come in to do work, right? And they want to have their privacy and get their stuff done. And yeah, so we try to act accordingly. Yeah.
So what do you do for fun outside the office?
Well, golf, so golf is, so when I was with Jamie, because Jamie, you were an athlete, right? And so you did stuff, and we had Dale and oh, who was it? So I was a triathlete. So I did a
Oh,
lot
that's right. I was trying to remember. Kane was Kane on the board? I
yeah,
know
so
Kane. Kane was one of your
so,
biggest fans, though. I always remember him being like, and I came to the GWA and I'd ask Willie a question and he'd just help me out. And yeah, he's a big triathlete too. He's done.
Kane's my idol now. Yeah, Kane's my he is doing great.
Yeah.
But then as you get older, I still work out, but I'm enjoying golf now. And family.
Down a notch.
Yeah, so I do that, and kind of like on the discussion with Gio. So family's important, right? So God number one, family number two, and so 3 kids, 8 grandkids, and
nice.
So that's a priority, and I know this is I tend to digress, so I apologize.
No, we like it.
Yeah.
So even at church, my wife and I mentored young couples on marriage, and marriage is tough. People are struggling. So yeah, people are just struggling, and so that's a kind of a passion. What I enjoy doing outside is maybe my wife and I can use our, I don't know, our perceived wisdom, in that, and kind of help young couples, because it's just I'm seeing that they're struggling. Can't tell you the why, but struggling. And I mean, even now, Gio, I mean, I'm doing a men's ministry. And we started day one. So it's called a Rooted program. Highly recommended. But
Rooted program?
It's called Rooted, ROOTED. And I have 19 men. Of the not 19, sorry, 13 men. Of the 13 men, 4 first day struggling with their marriage. I mean, that they stated it. So for them to state it day one, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my passion right now, outside of work, is investing in people if I can, just to talk. I mean, not that I'm not the counselor, so I mean, I can't do the real fix, but there's some good resources and books, and I love to read, so I do that too. So yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest problem that we have, is there's too many people trying to fix other people, right? And so I do a lot of coaching. Jamie knows that well. And really, it's all questions. I tell people, the minute you start giving people advice, it's over.
Yeah.
Right. Because the way each of the 3 of us handle anxiety, fear, marriage, relationships, life, it's completely different for all of us. We all have different backgrounds, different parents, different belief and value systems to some extent, or whatever. And so, that's what I always tell people, is if you want to help someone, ask them questions, right? And let them figure it out. And I think that's a big part, is with the wisdom that you've got, the experience you've got, the right questions to ask to make them look inside themselves, to try to figure out what it is they need to really focus on.
Well, I think what you guys are doing is great. The podcast, investing in people, helping them with their business. Those are big, because sometimes we don't know where to go and what to turn and how to do things. And so thank you guys, for your willingness to do that. That's important. So
yeah, I mean, I love our community, right? I mean, I was telling someone that just yesterday. Someone called me, and it's a young man that was at WeWork, and now he's at Rome. And Liz reached out and invited him to Juicy. And so he reached out a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, why should I go? And what should be the strategy with me convincing my executive team to allow for me to go? And I gave him a bunch of feedback, and then he said, well, if there's one thing that I would walk away from a conference from, what would it be? And I said, relationships, right? Relationships is everything in this industry for us, and the ability to connect people and, say, hey, I don't have the answer, but talk to this person, or just, and we've got a lot of great connectors. I mean, we've mentioned a bunch of them on this. I mean, Michelle's an incredible connector, Faye's an incredible connector, Kurt with a census. And so that's the beauty of it is, it's like a sense of cooperative. I mean, Willie, when I first met you, we were at the Yardy breakfast. I think you briefly spoke about your experience with that, but yet Kurt with the census and Warren with Yardy have this amazing, competition, but at the same time, they have a great relationship where they cohabitate to a certain extent because they have to, right? And so that's just what I love about our industry is everyone's so open and they've got a desire to help, and it's genuine. It's not forced. And I love that.
And I think, so when I met Jamie back then, and, and the main reason why I joined GWA or wanted to be involved was, I came from outside the industry, so I really didn't know it. And, everyone welcomed me, and so, I'd be part of these board meetings. I mean, I didn't say much because, everyone else had a lot of wisdom,
or just a lot to say,
or they had the need to talk. But from that, and you talk about COVID, so we even had and we have it to this day, a circle of trust where me, Scott Chambers, and William Edmondson, we talk. And during COVID, us three would get together, and I think if that was an essential part of helping all three of us get through COVID, because we would discuss how to handle things and the issues and the policies and this and that, or the whatever it was. And those guys, I mean, I love them. Those guys are my friend, and that was community, and that was from GWA that I got to meet them. And so and so now we're just trying to plan. We're trying to meet each other live so we can break bread and have some wine and enjoy each other's company. So
I bet there's not a lot of arm twisting going on there.
Or we'll even have a Zoom meeting. We'll have a Zoom meeting with our wine and beer. Okay, guys, we'll do it remotely. Here's cheers, and we do that. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, and Scott did say that to me at one point. He's like, we just openly shared, pro formas, and it's very candid. And I mean, that's a big part that I love.
That's a trust. I mean, that's a trust, right?
Yeah.
So,
And we have a lot of that. I mean, Jamie, you have an incredible relationship with Kane, and you guys are out, coaching and teaching people. I mean, you've got that AY
Kane is
program.
out skiing right now in Tahoe, and I can't believe
I know.
There.
I want his life. I really want his life. He's skiing, he's running, he's swimming. I mean, I go, do you ever work?
But he seems to, I mean, I think he does. He figures it out somehow. Yep.
I give him a hard time.
There's some inspiration to be found there. Wait, Willie, you're in Southern California. That's where you're based. Yeah.
We're Newport Beach, Irvine. Yeah.
A good place. Good place to have golf as a hobby.
Oh yeah, it's almost crystal clear blue skies outside. Yeah, it's a rough life.
I know. We're in Northern California. I mean, I suspect we're in for some serious rain, but it's nice and sunny today.
Well, Northern California is God's country, they say. So
it's pretty good. We'll take it.
Gio's not saying anything about Texas.
The funny part is it was 90 yesterday.
Shut up.
No way.
It was 90 yesterday. I got in my truck and it said 110. I was like, nope, not ready for this. We skipped straight through spring and went straight into summer. I went for a run, Jamie. I put on my weight vest and I'm like, I'm going to go do a 5K.
Oh.
I got 2 miles in and my body was like, what are you doing? It's 90 plus degrees outside.
And your body doesn't breathe under the weight vest. I mean,
yeah.
Ouch.
So I did 2 miles out and then walked back 2 miles. But tomorrow it's supposed to be 44. Welcome to Texas.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible. So Willie, I mean, I just, again, we've said it several times, you fly under the radar. No one really hears about Premier until we all start talking about, okay, who are the biggest players? And then we're like, oh, everyone always forgets about you guys. And then, pops up an article about how y'all have new investors and all kinds of stuff. I mean, y'all have had the same kind of investors that have backed y'all. I mean, it's a close-knit group. I mean, y'all are super strategic about your growth. Obviously, the financial markets and interest rates and all kinds of stuff has really affected how not only landlords look at it, but lenders, right? I mean, I'll tell you, we signed a lease in downtown Nashville mid-December, and the lender did not sign off on it until last week because they had $40 budgeted in TI, and our deal was for 50. So kind of how are you navigating this financial market and things that you deal with from a CFO standpoint and now president that other people don't often see or talk about?
Well, I think part of our methodology too is, so we're debt free. So we have no debt, so we are freer, I guess, to make lease decisions, we don't, and as far as cash. And so more like with Michael Pollock, you're right, the lenders are driving the decision making. And so Michael is running into that. And I think even in LA, there was not with us, but there was a 200,000 square foot deal. I think it was the city of LA, that one building the lender rejected it. I mean, this is 200,000 square feet, and the money's going to come in like clockwork. So I think landlords are still, or lenders are still in I'm going to say fantasy world. They don't want the values to come down, but it's going to happen. It's going to be a tenant market, right? And so part of our what we say is what is successful is the 3 M's. You've got the master lease, your manager, and the market. Because those are all critical. And so you need to understand, like even when you were there, Jamie, you had panels on, the lease and how to do things. I mean, that's just critical, on how to do that. And you need a good manager and the market. So there, if there's a location deal that if the lender isn't budging, like say on a renewal, we'll move. We won't stay. I mean, it's difficult, so, Michael needs to do his magic. And so we will look at the market and see where else can we move these clients to. So, and we've done that, and so we've done that. So, Michael's well ahead of the renewal date, right? We're out 1 year, 2 years. We're already looking to see what we can do. We're not waiting last minute. Because then you have no leverage.
Yep. Yeah, so, that's the biggest part, is creating some type of leverage,
right?
So that people do. And part of it too is, and I'd love to hear more about your take on this, right? Because you're big at looking at the financials and kind of the space planning and all that, right? I mean, the way that the space behind me is built out versus the way that Hall Office Park here in Frisco, Texas, or one of your older centers in San Diego. I think Del Mar, y'all move locations. But if you can make a space more efficient, sometimes it makes more sense to move and rebuild a space that has, a better efficiency, lower per square foot offices. Kind of how do you weigh those options when you're looking at that?
We will model both cases, right? So we have a modeling pro forma that we'll look at in both cases. Pretty much, I think at the end of the day, the landlords may ante up and provide more concessions, because if we're a full floor, we're a bigger fish too, right? And so, and we're very wise in what we ask for. So we're not going to ask for $200 a square foot to renovate the center, because the landlord's not going to do it, right? So we are reasonable to work within their budget. And I think that's what helps us. And by using their money, we don't use ours. And so that helps the bottom line. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I gave away a little bit of a trade secret, but that's okay.
Jamie, any operating questions before I jump in deeper?
Wait, are you gonna ask personal questions or business questions? Oh, okay.
I was gonna go.
Well, I'm gonna ask a business one. Yeah, I'm just curious. So, Will, you've been doing this for a long time. What keeps you interested?
It's really the way that Jeff has run the company. So Jeff's the CEO. He trusts us. And so I enjoy, you have ego, so I enjoy the position, but I also enjoy, because you saw that, I enjoy mentoring. So to me, I mentor my staff. So working with each team, I enjoy to see their growth. It's real satisfying that the team is humming right now. Because Jeff hired me for a reason way back then, and there were things that we needed to tweak and fix. And I enjoy just the industry. So why do I stay? We're primed now for some growth. And selfishly, I like to be, hopefully it happens, right? You don't know what the crystal ball is going to do.
Yeah, but you're optimistic.
Yeah. And so, and especially with this new role with Amy and Michael, it's new. And so I embrace change. My dad was in the Air Force and we moved all over the place. And I don't know.
Interesting.
So even at church, I haven't been at the same church. I'll move every, if we've moved, so I enjoy change. I don't know why, but
I feel like that's a blessing. I'm the same way. I'm like, bring it. My husband's like, I would like everything to remain the same forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of marriage and compromises, and I'm like, no, I would like to change things all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if I had a chance, I'd move to Europe and work from Premier if I could figure that out, So that's why it's a good team. It's a blessing. I enjoy it. There's the flexibility of my time, but from Jeff is to get the results, and that's kind of my corporate background. And so as long as you get the result, that's what counts. And treat people with it. And then doing this, even though I'm not used to this, and it's hard for me, but getting to know you all and being part of the community is of high value for me. So I enjoy that. So I hope not to maybe do more podcasts, but be able to see you guys in person, and so I want to do that now within my role with GWA and go to the events and do that. So, yeah.
Well, the beauty for you guys is that both GWA and Juicy this year are closer to the West Coast, right? You've got Salt Lake City next month for Juicy, and then we're doing in September, we're doing Phoenix. So
yeah, I think I plan on doing Phoenix. Amy's gonna plan on with Michelle, I think, doing Juicy in Utah. So we'll break bread. So in Phoenix, let's plan on breaking some bread and doing that.
Forward to that. Well, I'd love to make a trip out to California before that and see you.
Come on out. So. Yeah, come on out.
I snuck over I snuck up to Northern Cal and spent some time with Jamie. So I think I can get close to Southern Cal, and it's always good to see Mr. Pollock.
Yeah. Or maybe I'll make a trip out to Texas. You never know. We have locations out there. So, and that's what I'm doing now. So in my new role, my goal is when I first started, I went to every center. And even Jeff had me, even though I was the CFO, he had me also be the regional manager for the out-of-state locations. So I learned the sales side. So I was a regional manager for all the East. So I saw all our locations. And so my goal is, I won't be able to do it in a year, and I've started already, is to not go out to the locations and just, meet the team, see what's going on, see the space, spend some time with them, buy lunch, and so, yeah. So I'll be going to Texas at some point in time. I doubt I'll make our Hawaii location. I think I can get that approved, but I think
We're in Hawaii. Are y'all in Maui?
No, we're in Oahu.
Okay.
Yeah, downtown.
You need to go do more site selection out there for additional locations.
There you go.
So what is a quote that you live by?
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Or a verse. I'll make it easy on you.
So there's two things. One is what I want to hear is well done, thy good and faithful servant. And so that is my primary motivation in what I do. So when I die, and hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant. And then I like Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper and succeed. And so those are, in fact, I even have, I think on my van here is Jeremiah 29:11. So, and so, yeah, so good question. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting when we find ourselves in difficult times, we often forget that this too shall pass, right? And that, I tell people all the time is I'm like, if you have hope in one hand and on one side of your hand and you have fear on the other, you can't look at both. So our mind can't focus on fear and hope. We can't focus on gratitude and scarcity. And so sometimes just remembering and turning to people, right? And I mean, I think that's where you get to do your mentoring when people come to you. And Jamie and I've even had some amazing conversation where we've had some struggles with relationships and we're able to go, hey, have you thought about it from this perspective? Or maybe it's not about you. And so often, having people that impart that wisdom is so important, because when you're in the middle of that situation, I call it the snow globe effect. When you're in the middle of the snow globe and you've got snow all around you, you can't really, your perspective is skewed by everything going on, all the noise, right? And so sometimes someone looking out into the situation and being able to love us through that is a big part of it. And I think that's something that, from my interaction with people on your team and hearing about you both internally and externally, that's something that you are big on for people as a sounding board, the ability to reach out and have very genuine, transparent conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I try
Kudos
to
to
be
you.
right because I'll be, the team will only go as deep as I go, right? And then just to piggyback, because I know we're coming to the end. And to me, we're just problem solvers, right? And I try to look at it, these are first world problems. You know, people have real problems,
Mhm.
and though they're, I get it, that when we're in it, they're difficult, but just trying to have that perspective, and I think it just helps kind of get through the day or get through the issue. So, yeah.
Jamie, business questions? Because I thought personal day long.
Oh, I know. I want you to ask there's one question I want you to ask.
Which one?
The three.
Well, you ask it. You've heard me ask it
You
enough
want me to
times.
ask
Go
it?
for it.
Okay, Willie, I'm curious, since you and your wife do ministry, or you mentioned a men's group, but in sharing your wisdom, if we asked your wife the three characteristics she likes most about you, what would she say?
Ooh, man, that's a that's a that's a tricky
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
I think one is the spiritual leader that I try to be. So God, number one, the how I treat family. So my kids. So I try to walk the talk. And this is probably for another conversation, but just difficulties that I'm having with, like, say, my dad. So he's a narcissist and doing a lot of weird things right now. But I will still love him from a distance, and I'll pray for him, right? But I don't have to have
Yep.
a relationship, right? I still have my boundaries, and I think that's important. And then from counseling that my wife and I have done, so I think everyone needs counseling, right? So in a relationship, I bring garbage, he brings garbage, and you put it together, and there's stuff is that you can always change the narratives, and I'm willing to change to improve the relationship. So doesn't mean I always do that.
Yeah.
So my wife has even mentioned that I tend to make her feel invisible. So I'm working on that. So, because I can get into my own world.
Well, I think that's the biggest problem as men, right? We're fixers, right? And so I've had to
Men are the biggest
learn.
problem. No.
Yeah, it's true. I've had to learn to ask the question, what do you need from me, right? And people typically look at me, they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, do you just want me to listen? Do you want feedback? Do you want advice? What are you looking for? because it's so simple as a leader, as someone that really cares. Sometimes I interject myself into situations and try solving things that I wasn't asked to solve, right? And so sometimes, and it makes people feel invisible. It makes people feel bulldozed. And so sometimes just stepping back and going, hey, what do you need from me, right? And letting that lead rather than us take over, because it's kind of what we do.
Well, and a couple of things. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have done like personality tests, right? And you've probably heard of the 5 love languages and
Yeah.
stuff, right? And so a couple of things. So the purpose of the 5 love personality test or the 5 love languages isn't so that you know your love language. It's to know theirs, right?
Yeah.
And I've even had my team, by the way, take the 5 love language survey and take another personality test. But the big thing is if I know the language of my team and I speak to them in their language, I connect better. So that's the reason, is for me to talk in their language and to understand that. So that's what's big, I think, with that. And I just love doing that kind of stuff. And so I think it's different, for my team to take a, survey, and so they'll see mine, because I can be direct with someone and they won't react as well as if I did it in a different way, in a different tone.
Yeah.
And then with my wife, she will say, listen, I'm going to share something with you. I don't want you to fix it. I'm just going to share something and zip it. Just listen. I said, so she has to like prep me.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's good though. And that's one of those marriage.
Oh no.
things,
And
right?
that's
like, okay, I'm going to tell you what I need so that you don't have to read my mind and then do it wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key in relationships.
Yeah.
Is to be able to talk. I think when people ask you because we've been married 41 years, and we just talk, if there's an issue, because I think divorce happens when you let things build and then you explode, right? And so you share each other's needs and you're vulnerable, and we'll even ask a question, what do I do? And we'll ask a question, but we don't want a response. And we'll say, what do I do that makes your life difficult? No. So we'll ask a question, they'll respond, but I can't defend myself.
Okay.
Right. And so, and then so I'll ask her, what do I do that makes your life difficult? And she will share, and then I can't respond.
You get to figure out what to do with it without actually defending yourself, which is huge, right?
Yeah. And so I think that is, but I take that kind of philosophy to work. So I tell my team, how am I doing? What can I do better? Right. So again, I'm not trying to say I'm the best, the know-it-all. I try to be real, because again, the team will go as deep as I go. So if I can be real, they'll be real. Right. And there's no, or even in the CLT, or with Scott and William, we're real, And so now we share things even on a personal basis, and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoy that. See, I could do all that all day long.
Well, that's what we get to do every day, right? I mean, this is really what this podcast is based around. I mean, it's funny. Jamie's like, okay, Giovanni's going to ask the personal question. I mean, it's easy to connect on a head-to-head level, right? And, have very smart people that repeat the same. I mean, having Ryan Simonetti on, or Jamie Hidari, or you, or people that are used to being PR savvy, right? They know how to say the right things, but then you ask them a heart question and they're like, oh, wait a minute. That's a really good question, because we rarely take time to have a heart check on ourselves, much less have other people ask us heart questions. But that's really where relationships are built, and that's where you connect, and that's where you build trust and rapport and all those things. That's really where the rubber meets the road, right? I mean, you can find anyone do a financial model for you, but where you can find someone, I mean, that's what I love about Nick Brett, who does our financial. I'd love to connect you with him, Willie, just so you guys can connect on a heart-to-heart level.
They can nerd out together.
Yeah, but yeah, y'all can nerd out together. But Nick has done over 1,000 pro formas. He was on the Regis team for a while, but uh,
Whoa.
has a really, really strong faith-based foundation, and he truly cares, right? And I think that's what I love about kind of the partnership Jamie, Nick, and I have, and other people we bring in to help other people, is that we truly care that you are successful, right? And so we want to ask those questions. Why are you doing this? And we really care about making sure that people do the right thing for their personal lives, because a lot of people are investing their livelihood, right? Their savings in these things. And so helping them do that, even sometimes it's like, hey, this is not for you, I'd walk away. That's the hard part.
I mean, so I'll share. So like a good question to ask is, what book have you read lately? Right. So a couple of recommended books, I don't know, that I would recommend to you all. So one is Children of Adult Immature Parents. Children of, I think, of emotionally immature parents is very good. And then a book called Us. And the Us is the marriage. And it's a secular book, but wow, it was just very, I just read it, just finished Us.
I've got a lot of homework. I can get Rooted, Us, and Children of Emotionally
I
Mature
don't know
Parents.
why you're writing this down. You don't read books.
But I do audio.
You can listen to it, Audible.
Okay.
Yeah, so Audible.
Yeah.
Those are, if you have someone who, a parent or, because we all had stuff, that was in fact, my son gave me that book because it helped me deal with my dad. And then Us, you can always learn on how to make your marriage stronger. And what I like about it, he talks about, it's kind of technical, so it's kind of hard. It could be kind of hard. It's case study. I go, oh, I'm dealing with that. Or, okay, I'm not alone. And what they did to mend it. I thought it was real good.
So I just finished a book called Untangle Your Emotions, Naming What You Feel and Knowing What to Do About It by Jeannie Allen. And it's an amazing book because, I mean, for me, for example, I am always moving, so I don't stop to feel anything, right? I just keep moving. And so I have, the last week and a half, I've really been working on how I'm feeling, right? And I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling happy, or I'm feeling confused, right? I'm not used to doing that. I just keep bulldozing forward. And so it's huge. And so I think we don't stop to do enough self-assessment and work on ourselves a lot of times in this world we live in.
Especially, I think I have that challenge like I'm an Enneagram 3. So my drive to be.
Oh, Enneagram. Okay.
Yeah. My drive to be like productive is like, no, ain't nobody got time to like slow down and do that work. You guys are making me look bad though. I was just trying to figure out what I read last that was like deeper.
There you go. But yeah, and then Enneagram, what your side things are.
Yep.
But no, I think it's good, because otherwise, you just shove down your emotions, right? But it's going to manifest itself.
Yeah.
It always does.
Yeah.
And so, taking care of that, or being aware of it, it's important. So
do the work.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, I like it. Okay, we gotta let Willie go. It's late, and I gotta go get my kid shortly. Willie, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for doing this and being so authentic and vulnerable. And this was such a lovely conversation. I'm going to text Kane and be like, wait till you hear our chat with Willie. He's going to love it.
And you know what? The best questions and responses were the ones that I didn't send.
We didn't put on the list.
He wasn't prepared for them. They were from his heart, not his head. Yeah, so it's perfect.
You just kind of fake me out. Okay, now he's prepared in his mind. Okay, now I'll just go off.
Bait and switch.
Exactly. Oh, anytime. So love this and looking forward to hopefully we can meet each other, soon, maybe at GWA or something, or whenever you're in California.
Yeah, I love it.
So
sounds good. Thanks, Willie.
I'll send you a Flex Uncensored hat to wear on the golf course.
I will wear it. I'm a hat guy.